Mario Party Island Tour is a very strange game. After ND Cube completely changed the Mario Party series course with Mario Party 9, fans around the world waited with bated breath to see what they would do next. However, instead of jumping into another console entry, they decided to go back to handhelds to give us what they described as a Mario Party game made with portable play in mind. The previous portable entry, Mario Party DS, had to make some compromises, but was a solid entry overall that put up some competition compared to the console games. So, was ND Cube able to experiment within this new handheld entry and maybe find a new direction for the series? Well, let's find out together on today's episode of Mark's Rec Room, where we're talking about Mario Party Island Tour, the one that has to pick up the pieces. By 2013, ND Cube had fully cemented itself as Nintendo's premier party partner. In 2010, they proved their party prowess with Wii Party, a game that Satoru Iwata himself described as a new standard. After that, they released Mario Party 9, not necessarily the most popular entry in the series, but a moderately successful one that proved that, at the very least, the team at ND Cube had new ideas for this long-running series. Coming out of the Wii's life cycle, ND Cube set their sights on a Wii Party successor for Nintendo's next console. Wii Party U is pretty relevant to the story since it was developed at the same time as Island Tour and was getting a pretty big push from Nintendo at the time, mostly because it was a massive showcase of all of the goofy ways the Wii U gamepad could be used for unique party game modes and experiences. If you want to hear more about Wii Party U and whether it succeeds at this mission, feel free to check out my full video on that game. Anyways, Wii Party U was supposed to come out in the summer of 2013, but it was later announced that it would be delayed for a few months as the team continued working on it, and it would eventually be released in October of 2013. Alongside it, Island Tour was announced in the April 2013 Nintendo Direct, then released in November of 2013. So it's safe to say that the teams at ND Cube were pretty busy trying to get both of these games out at roughly the same time. As a result, in an unprecedented turn of events, Shuichiro Nishida did not direct Island Tour like the past several Mario Party games. However, Island Tour was still left in the very capable hands of Kenji Kikuchi, a series veteran who directed the first 5 Mario Party games, then served as senior director alongside Nishida for Mario Party 6 onward. Kikuchi's continued role as senior director is important context for Island Tour, because he was also in charge of the creation of both Mario Party Advance and DS at Hudson Soft, 2 entries that posed unique challenges for the team because they were on handheld platforms instead of typical consoles. Mario Party Advance was a really unique case. It was really just a Mario Party game in name only. Since it was on the GBA, its multiplayer functionalities were inconvenient and required additional peripherals like the GBA link cable, so it relied a lot on a single-player story mode for the bulk of its content and got creative with its multiplayer content. Mario Party DS, on the other hand, was a much more faithful Mario Party experience thanks to the noticeable bump in processing power on the DS, but that was not the original plan. In an interview for Nintendo Online Magazine, Shinichi Nakata, a planner for the Hudson Soft team, and Hiroshi Sato, a producer for Nintendo, discussed how the team originally wanted to take Mario Party DS in a very different direction. Initially, the team at Hudson Soft was trying to create a Mario Party game that was entirely unique to the DS, using the player's individual screens, but they felt that this actually posed lots of challenges, and most of all, wasn't fun.
Actually, we did change course a few times during development. We first launched with the idea of making something you could only find on the DS, but this changed when the thought crossed our minds that players would see certain mechanics and go, oh well, I guess they had to check off a list on the DS's features or whatever, which wouldn't make anyone feel good. Ultimately, we zeroed in on making a brand new iteration of what Mario Party already was, and maybe Kikuchi-san and Nakata-san can elaborate on this better than I can.
Well, I don't think I could tell it any better. It's true, we wanted to make something you could only find on the DS, and wound up leaning on that longer than we should have. Early on in development, we tried making a baseline where players could communicate with one another in real time, but each player's screens would show different material. It's wordy, but picture a Mario Party game that looked and played like Old Maid. As for how that went, let's just say it was an uphill battle. Funny enough, that original pitch led us to make something that felt like a boring social game for grown-ups, likely because the game's main focus became the strategic relay of information between players where no one could see the same thing. We sure took the party out of Mario Party with that one.
In the beginning we thought, well, players already have Mario Party on consoles, so surely they'll be more satisfied with something different from what they've seen on one big TV. When highlighting the Nintendo DS's unique features, we decided to focus on players having the ability to see something different on their individual screens. What we made first with that was not an easy sell. That proposal wound up not getting greenlit.
Given we were developing a Nintendo DS game, keep in mind that every player has a stylus and a microphone. We felt that the controls at our disposal were nothing like those we were used to when developing a console game. We had a lot of ideas on the table because of it. On the other hand, we wanted to give the game a unique feel and tried making a screen that let the player see everything in first person, and that didn't go over well either.
But you can see why playing the game from one character's point of view the whole time doesn't work here, right? You either make the player character appear too lonely, or you make it hard for the player to see what their character is actually doing.
That wouldn't fly for Mario Party.
Interestingly, trying to utilize the player's unique perspective seemed to create a party game environment where nobody was communicating. So instead, the team leaned back into the series formula and tried to create something that felt more communal, more like Mario Party. The experiments using the DS's features weren't a total waste. Many of the minigames in the final game, like Globe Gunners and Camera Shy, used those unique perspectives to create minigames that you could never really get on console. And those happen to be some of my personal favorite minigames in Mario Party DS. The boards, however, went back to basics. You watch everyone roll like in the console game so you can react to someone purchasing a star or losing everything. While the team might have felt that this left many ideas on the cutting room floor, it resulted in an authentic, classic-feeling Mario Party game in a new setting. Mario Party DS took that classic communal feeling of gathering around a TV to play a game of Mario Party together and found a way to make this work portably while still tastefully incorporating the DS's elements throughout the experience. Some concessions had to be made, of course. DS has some of the smallest boards in the series, and I believe its economy and item system are balanced around shorter 10-turn games, making them a lot more chaotic in longer sessions. But the essence of the series was fully captured, with some fun little nods to the past games in the series for us freaks that would be able to pick out stick and spin from a crowd. Fast forward 6 years, and now the Hudson Soft team has migrated over to ND Cube. When the team at ND Cube set out to create Island Tour, they were at a bit of a crossroads. Now, Mario Party Island Tour is on the 3DS, a console with even more power than a standard DS. So that meant that the console Mario Party experience could be emulated even closer on the go. However, since the Mario Party series had been completely reworked with the previous entry, returning to the classic formula of Mario Party was likely not the direction they wanted to take after such a radical refresh of the series. It would almost look like they were abandoning their ideas after just one game. However, I'd guess that trying to emulate the car gameplay portably would present lots of challenges as well. The car requires long, continuous boards to make it work, which I imagine posed some technical limitations, and even beyond that, I imagine it would have been difficult to make the car gameplay fun while everyone is looking at their own screen. So, this time, ND Cube decided to adapt Mario Party 9's new tempo-emphasizing approach to a smaller format, creating a game specifically made with portable play in mind. Now, I know that this has presented some challenges to the team before, but this has always sounded like a good idea to me. I think there's serious opportunity there to create a unique, fast-paced, and portable conscious experience that offers something different than the console games. It was just going to take some experimentation to get there, and the unique circumstances surrounding Island Tour's placement after the series was totally reworked opens up a great opportunity to try something new. So, does Island Tour succeed at reformatting Mario Party for handhelds? One of Mario Party Island Tour's main selling points, right from the moment it was revealed, was that each board was distinct, complete with its own win conditions and rule sets.
But in this title, for the first time, we have a total of 7 game boards, each with their own set of rules.
Now, this isn't entirely unfamiliar to the Mario Party series. Some entries in the past would feature different boards with different takes on the formula, but ultimately they all still had the same rule set at their core. Get stars to win the game. You might get those stars from running into Donkey Kong, stealing them from another player, or purchasing real estate, but at the end of the day, all of the boards in the classic Mario Party games feature stars as your clear condition. Mario Party Island Tour is different because it doesn't have stars or a standardized victory point, and instead, the things you collect vary from board to board. As a result, Island Tour's boards are very different from each other. In one, you're racing to the end, in another, you're grabbing mini stars, in another, you're racing to the end, in another, well, this one has cards, so I lied. These boards' rule sets are not that distinct from each other. Every board in Mario Party Island Tour is linear, with a clear start and end point, and for 5 out of the 7 boards in the game, your win condition is to be the first player to reach the end of the board. There are no coins, no stars, no shops, so this means that many of Island Tour's boards are decided primarily by dice rolls. If you roll high, congratulations! If you roll low, better luck next time. If you've seen my previous episodes of the Mario Party series, it will not surprise you that I don't love this format. I do think that linear boards can be done well. Look no further than Shy Guy's Perplex Express from Mario Party 8, for example. However, that board is good not because of its linear structure, but the various opportunities that players have to use items to increase their chances of rolling high to get the star faster, or to decrease their chances of getting to the front when Bowser is in control. Linear boards can be done well, but there needs to be some consistent form of decision-making or skill input via minigames or items to make them fun and engaging. Otherwise, players will get bored because they have no input on the game's results. They're completely at the mercy of their dice rolls. To be fair to Island Tour, the methods you use to get to the end vary between the different boards, and this does add more variety to the gameplay than I'm giving them credit. Typically, when I do these Mario Party retrospectives, I like to go over the game's overarching mechanics and changes. You know, the item system, central gimmick, those sorts of things before I go into the different boards. However, for this one, I'll have to jump straight into the board discussions because the boards are so different from one another. So, without further ado, let's discuss each board individually from worst to best and see what these different rule sets are like. Alright, so let's just rip this band-aid off. Bonsai Bill's Mad Mountain is trash. It's garbage. Pardon my language, but it's straight dookie. This is one of the most vapid and flavorless boards in the entire series, and that's almost an accomplishment. The central mechanic of this board is that there are 2 big intimidating Bonsai Bill launchers that are itching to go off when somebody rolls the Bonsai Bill or lands on the launch space. If you're on a red space in the open when this is rolled, you're sent back to the start of the section. To avoid impending doom, you can hide in one of these safe caverns that will protect you from the Bonsai Bill if they get launched. If one player occupies a safe space, an opponent cannot also choose that space, so the player who got there first can force others into potentially dangerous scenarios. This board is basically all about risk versus reward. Do you duck for cover, potentially take longer to get to the end, but gain an advantage if the Bonsai Bill is rolled, or do you risk it to make it there faster, potentially? Conceptually, it sounds fine, but in practice, this board is extremely dull and excessively luck-heavy. For starters, this board is tiny. Like, there are a total of 15 spaces that you need to cross to make it from the start of the board to the end. This first stretch of danger spaces lasts literally 5 spaces, which you can almost clear in a single roll. For this mechanic to be intimidating or tense at all, players should not be able to dash past it so quickly. I really think this board needed to be bigger to make its mechanics worthwhile. However, even if it was bigger, I still don't think it would be up there with the greats or anything. Players only play minigames every 3 turns, and when you do, each player gets a little movement bonus to help them out. So, realistically, you're lucky if you play 2, maybe 3 minigames per session on this board, which means that the vast majority of the time that you spend here is comprised of rolling, watching opponents roll, getting sent back maybe, repeat. What about this is supposed to be fun? The fun is intended to come from the risk and reward of it all, but the risk is way too safe and the reward is incredibly uninteresting. The consequence for overextending is that you have to play more Bonsai Bill's Mad Mountain, and the reward is a hollow victory. This board has pretty much nothing going for it. Its idea sounds all right on a super zoomed out level, but actually playing the board itself is laborious. Rocket Road is another another vapid board, but I can at least see merit in its ideas. In Rocket Road, your goal is to reach the finish line first, and you can increase your chances by adding boosters onto your car to multiply your roll by up to 5 times. However, there's always the risk of rolling a 0 and burning out. You can gain boosters from landing on booster spaces or by winning them in minigames. A minigame will be played after 3 turns pass, and depending on your placement in that minigame, you can win a ton of boosters. Third place wins 1 booster, second wins 2, and first wins a whopping 3. There are also these versus spaces up here towards the board's halfway point, where all of the players will wager a booster in a winner-takes-all battle minigame. Finally, there are some warp spaces on the board that will warp you to a random player's space. All of this, on paper, doesn't sound too bad, right? Take a linear board where the clear condition is to roll high, then give players the ability to fight for boosters to power up their rolls and improve their chances. There's a risk and reward element here because players can choose whether they want to use all of their boosters at once for a big roll or run the risk of burning out and wasting all of their hard work. That sounds pretty great. What's the problem, Mark? The problem is that the board itself is so short that it trips the mechanic before the race even begins, falling flat on its face. Rocket Road is 25 spaces long. That's right, 25. If you're mathematically astute, you'll know that you can actually roll that number in a single turn with 5 boosters. So this means that Rocket Road is usually over within a couple of turns, since players can roll once or twice, acquire a couple of boosters, then dash to the end super quickly before the game even gets out of first gear. It's entirely plausible that the game could end on turn 3 before a minigame is even played, because the board is so short and players have the opportunity to boost through to the goal immediately. The most unfortunate part is that the booster idea is not inherently bad. I like the concept of players stockpiling boosters by winning minigames and then using them all on one dice roll to boost ahead of the competition. I think that if you expanded this map to maybe 2, 3, or even 4 times its size in a console Mario Party that can handle a board that size, giving some players more room to leapfrog each other as you stockpile boosters and race towards the goal, I think you've got potential for a fun, yet different board idea here. Then, you wouldn't even have to have a burnout option on the dice so players can stockpile boosters and at least move a little bit for each roll. If you wanted to get really wacky with it, you could also create some opportunities for some chaos with duels or chance time spaces to wager or swap boosters between players. There's potential for a unique linear board here, but Rocket Road squanders it and creates one of the most bland and forgettable boards in the series. Starcross Skyway is a bigger and more fleshed out board than the last two. That doesn't mean it's good though, stay on your toes. In Starcross Skyway, the board is divided into 4 small segments, each with a stage at the end. On this stage, 4 characters are holding a collection of mini-stars or mini-zitars. Yes, Jamboree confirmed that they're pronounced zitars. I don't like it, let's just keep moving. So, you want to position yourself to get to the podium when the mini-star payout is at its highest. However, there aren't many tools at your disposal to set yourself up to get that big payout, outside of rolling the correct numbers. There are switch place spaces that send the current leader of the podium to the back of the line, and scramble spaces, which allow the player who landed on this space to select the order the current character should be in. The scramble space is pretty cool in particular, since the player organizing the characters on the stage needs to consider the fact that a switch place space might get hit, or another player might beat them to the stage before they can roll again. It's a pretty cool mechanic, but unfortunately there's only 1 scramble space in 3 out of the 4 sections, so the switch place spaces will be the most common method of shuffling the stage around. The scramble spaces are always placed right before the podium, which makes sense, but I think I would have liked to see a couple more of these peppered throughout the board so players could have a little more impact on how the podium is arranged throughout each section. It would offer some great opportunities for mind games. The amount of switch place spaces makes this board feel very random and hectic, and without any sort of item system, it doesn't really feel like you have very much control over the outcome of the game. There are also a bunch of versus spaces on the board that initiate a minigame where you can win a few mini-stars. These minigames are super important since a first place victory will net you 3 mini-stars, and you will play a lot of minigames throughout this game since about 1 in 5 spaces on this board are a versus space. This kind of devalues the board's main mechanic a bit, but I do like the fact that the minigames provide some levity to the otherwise extremely random outcomes. So, in a way, devaluing the board's mechanic makes it more fun. I think that speaks volumes about how this idea was implemented onto this board. I could see a version of this board where the idea could be performed better. Giving players dice blocks they could use to increase or decrease their roll would do wonders for it, I think. Starcross Skyway is more interesting than the past few boards, but it's still extremely luck heavy, and it's not one that I particularly enjoy. Shy Guys Shuffle City is where I think we start to see the board ideas get a little more creative. This board in particular is interesting because you have to have 3 to 4 real human players to select this board. No CPUs allowed. So what's so special about it? In Shy Guys Shuffle City, players use cards to move to the end of the map. At the start of the game, every player is given a hand of 3 movement cards that they can use to choose how far they want to move on their turn. However, one player is dealt a Bowser card, and that Bowser card can cause a punishment in 3 turns. So you do not want to be the sucker caught holding it when punishment time comes. I don't like the way I said that. Let me rephrase. When the Bowser penalty occurs after 3 turns, the player holding it will receive a punishment similar to landing on a Bowser space, which can be quite detrimental to their progress. So, if you were dealt the Bowser card, how do you get rid of it? Well, every turn, each player will take turns pulling a card out of the hand of the player after them. That player has the opportunity to shuffle their cards around and try to get their opponent to pick a card that they don't want. So, if you have the Bowser card, your goal is to try to pawn it off onto another player before time is up. The Bowser card can also be moved to another player if they land on an event space and get unlucky, which also lets the other players know who has the Bowser card now. After the Bowser penalty, every player gets 3 new cards and then plays a minigame for a 4th, more powerful card. The board ends when a player reaches the finish line and actually draws one of the party popper cards at the finale. But if you have the Bowser card, you can't partake in this event and are immediately sent back. So I think Shy Guys Shuffle City is pretty clever. You might remember from the start of this video that one of the earliest ideas for Mario Party DS was a card game resembling Old Maid, using each of the players' perspectives. I think this board was likely another attempt at integrating that idea into the handheld Mario Party series. I think that this is one of the most interesting ways you can take advantage of every player looking at their own screen, by simulating them holding cards in their hand that only they can look at. Mario Party Island Tour, believe it or not, was not the first party game to do this, but I'd argue Island Tour does this better than Sonic Shuffle because players can't just take any card from any other player willy-nilly. They have to only steal from the player who comes after them. So there's more structure, and it works even better in a portable experience, taking advantage of the fact that everyone has their own touchscreen, so they can shuffle the cards around themselves before the other player picks. It feels like something you couldn't get from a console Mario Party, and to me, that's what portable Mario Parties should strive for. So why is this board only landing at roughly the midpoint of this game's board rankings? Well, it's because, like Bonsai Bill's Mad Mountain and Rocket Road before it, this board is way too short for this idea to really get off the ground. Shy Guys Shuffle City is only 19 spaces long, so this means that the board will probably last you like 5 turns or so. That's just not enough time to create stakes or any kind of interesting long-term strategy, and it also means that you'll play 2 minigames tops before the board ends. I really like Shy Guys Shuffle City conceptually. I think this whole card mechanic has legs, it just needs to be implemented on a board that's going to give it some more room to grow. Perilous Palace Path is the largest board in this game, which gives its ideas much more room to breathe than the others. Perilous Palace Path is Mario Party's take on Board Game Island from Wii Party, with its own bits of personality sprinkled in here and there. In Perilous Palace Path, everybody plays a minigame before each turn, and bonus dice blocks are doled out depending on your performance in the minigame. I like this setup for a short, linear board because it places your skill input into the minigames, so winning minigames means more opportunities to roll high, which means a higher likelihood of winning the board overall. It doesn't beat classic Mario Party with its decisions and coin spending, but if you're looking to streamline Mario Mario Party into something faster with a lower barrier to entry, this is the way to do it. Perilous Palace Path is very similar to Board Game Island in a lot of ways, from the dice that are given out after each minigame, to the luck-based bottlenecks across the board aimed at leveling the playing field, to even the board events mostly focusing on sending you forward and backward in a variety of ways. Man, the developers weren't kidding when they said Wii Party had established a new standard. Its ideas are used all throughout this board. So, how is this board different? Well, for one, the final challenge with this Womp here is way easier than the final challenge in Wii Party. In Wii Party, you have to roll a minimum of 6 in a single roll to get past the gates, but if you don't clear the challenge, you can try it next time with the bonus dice you earn in the minigame. Perilous Palace Path is mostly the same, but the Womp's health permanently decreases with each attempt. So if you roll a 2 on Womp the first time, the next time you attempt to pass, you only have to roll a 4 or higher to pass, which makes this obstacle too easy, I'd argue. Another minor difference is that you actually roll for turn order at the start of the game. In Board Game Island, the turn order is always determined by your placement in minigames, so if you come in first in the minigame, you don't just have the best dice, but you also have first dibs at rolling, which can come in clutch when you're down to the wire rolling against another opponent to win. In Island Tour, though, you'll always roll in the same order regardless of minigame placement. So even if you come in first place in the minigame, if you roll last, you'll always have last pickings at movement and action. Since your ultimate goal is to be the first one to reach the end of the board, it feels a little unfair to me that one player will always be at a bit of a disadvantage by rolling last and getting to move last. I know this sounds like a nitpick, but it really does make the difference when 2 players are down to the wire, and it's so easy to clear that final challenge. Finally, the biggest major difference is, well, Perilous Palace Path has an item system. It's nothing incredibly deep, all of them center around movement in one way or another, but it's still a helpful addition. You've got items that knock opponents back, items that subtract from their roll, items that add to your roll, items that steal items, and items that swap places with your opponent. The interesting outlier is the new custom dice block that lets you personally choose your roll. No need to time it like the Sluggish Shroom orb. I think the items are a nice bit of flavor to this board that can help struggling players catch up. Unfortunately, in most cases, you don't get to choose what item you get, with the exception of the versus minigame space, which lets the winner choose an item first, then second place chooses, then you get it. Overall, the item system is serviceable. It's far from the greatest item system in the series or anything, but given the context of a smaller linear board with no victory objective other than getting to the end, I think it does enough to add a little bit of flavor. Perilous Palace Path is an interesting spin on Board Game Island's ideas. I like that it tries to marry the Mario Party branding with the Wii Party's formula. It's at least got something unique to set it apart from the original, unlike Highway Rollers from Wii Party U. However, the board itself and its spaces lack variety. The luck bottlenecks are less interesting than the versions found in Wii Party. The Goomba Tower Junction is cute, but barely impactful, and the Thwomp Bridge is debatably one of the most boring luck bottlenecks out of any of the iterations of this board. Although the red light green light bridge from Highway Rollers might have it beat in that department. My god, is that event as bland as a white bread sandwich. There's a cannon that sends you forward and a chain chomp that sends you back, but compare that to the multitude of events in Board Game Island, and I'd argue there's not a contest. Unlike the Wii Party variants, there's no minigame space other than the versus space that pits players directly against each other in a 1 versus 3 or duel to send them forwards or backwards on the board. I think Perilous Palace Path is really missing something here by having no other minigame types on this board. Those duels and 1v3s in the Wii Parties did a great job of creating tense scenarios that pitted players directly against each other. Perilous Palace Path is one of the better boards in the game, but I still can't help but look at it as a weaker version of Board Game Island. Bowser's Peculiar Peak is very similar to Perilous Palace Path, but this time in reverse. In this board, making it to the very end and winning the luck-based challenge loses the board for you instead of winning it. So, in this board, last place gets a gold die, third gets the silver, and second gets bronze, so you want to roll as low as possible and avoid getting to Bowser quickly. If you get a bonus die, don't worry, if you're lucky enough to roll doubles, you won't be forced to move forward. This makes second place in minigames almost as good as first place, since second place then has a chance of not rolling at all, but also has a chance of rolling a number higher than the single die. It gives gives this game this feeling that anything can happen and anybody can still be in the running to win as long as they perform well in the minigames. Bowser's Peculiar Peak is very similar to Perilous Palace Path in structure, so a lot of the benefits and drawbacks are very similar. The board is littered with spaces that can send you forwards or backwards in position, and towards the middle of the board there's a single 50-50 luck bottleneck. Although it doesn't have an item system, it does have fewer luck-based bottlenecks, and players' performance in minigames determines the roll order. This board is a little shorter too, so it's a little bit faster paced. To me, those changes are just good enough to outweigh the loss in the item system, but it'll probably be up to you to decide what you prefer. Kamek's Carpet Ride is another card-based board, just like Shy Guy's Shuffle City, but it uses cards a bit better. In this board, your goal is to use specific cards to land on exactly one of the just right spaces to either progress past the first half of the board or to win the board overall. If you overshoot these spaces, you'll sort of bounce off of them and go backwards. This is a pretty cool usage of the whole card mechanic. It allows players to plan out their moves multiple turns in advance and requires some real thought when choosing how far to move. That's some good long-term decision making. Unlike Shy Guy's Shuffle City, this board also has random cards that roll a random number between the options presented on the card, and the power precision cards that move its user forward and every other player back. After every turn, everyone will play a minigame to get first dibs on selecting a new card and adding it to their hand. So if you win more minigames, you get more opportunities to execute your strategy. However, the usual Mario Party hijinks occur if someone lands on a Kamek space, which usually causes players to move forward, backward, or to an opponent's space, throwing off their plans. So far, this all sounds pretty great, right? It's a board mechanic all about multi-turn decisions. Your performance in the minigames directly gives you the options to make decisions. What's not to love? Well, the board design itself, that's what. Like the other boards in the game, this one's layout is dreadfully uninteresting and the board ends way too fast. You start out in this intro section with mostly green spaces, one forward moving space, one backward moving space, and a Kamek space. There's not a lot out here, but Toad tells you that this is more of a practice course, so I guess it's supposed to be boring to get you acclimated to the mechanics. Well, once you land on one of the two just right spaces, you'll go to one of two mansions in the final stretch. But neither of these final stretches are that much more interesting than the opening section. The green mansion has 3 back spaces and 1 Kamek space, while the orange mansion has a little more going on with 5 dash spaces, a piranha plant, and 2 Kamek spaces. There aren't many spaces on these boards that can change the outcome of the board meaningfully, besides setting you back. Kamek's Carpet Ride has a lot going for it, but like many of the boards in Mario Party Island Tour, I think it could have benefited from some additional variety. The card mechanic is fun, but you can't steal cards from other players, so if Wario has the card he needs to win, the other players can't do anything about it except use a power precision card or hope that Kamek messes with him. This board could have benefited from some duels or 1v3 spaces that maybe gave you an opportunity to steal a card from an opponent. It would have created more tension between the players and taken a little more advantage of the card mechanic and differing perspectives. At the very least, implementing the card stealing from Shy Guy's Shuffle City, but putting it onto its own space as an event and letting you choose who you want to steal from would have sufficed. Kamek's Carpet Ride has good ideas, but its execution is very bland. I'd struggle really hard to describe Island Tour's boards as anything but vapid and forgettable. None of these boards cross the line into good territory for me, and that's mostly because of their size. In my video about Mario Party DS, I mentioned that that game had some of the smallest boards in the series, with an average of 46.2 spaces per board. Well, Island Tour shrinks that record even more to just 35 spaces per board. The boards in Island Tour are just way too short and do not give their mechanics space to actually do anything. Shy Guy's Shuffle City is the most egregious example of this, since it is the board with the fewest amount of spaces in the entire series at just 19 spaces. So if you use a card that moves 6 spaces, you pass by almost a third of the entire board in just one turn. It's a shame because some of the ideas on these boards are actually pretty interesting. I mean, not all of them work well, but there's something there in some of these. The problem is that Island Tour just doesn't give these mechanics enough time, and the space types on the boards don't provide enough twists on the mechanics either. A lot of these boards feel like they want to rush you to the end. Since this is a portable Mario Party, it makes sense that the team would want to create a faster, shorter version of the traditional board gameplay. Some concessions are going to have to be made to accomplish that, but this was not the way to do it. Mario Party DS, while it has some flaws, did a much better job adapting Mario Party to a handheld than Island Tour. The boards were bigger, more interesting, and more memorable. Mario Party DS had ideas of its own, ideas that rivaled the console games and that were worth playing. It's just not worth it to go through all of the effort to gather 3 friends, each with their own 3DS consoles, all to play a board that only lasts for 19 spaces. Like with Mario Party 9, ND Cube is attempting to streamline the Mario Party process into something that fits into the Wii Party standard, with quick tempo and expansive variety for different party situations. However, the way Island Tour tries this is by rushing through the boards so quickly that their ideas don't get to shine or do anything memorable. They're often determined by 1 or 2 rolls. The minigames are clumsily incorporated into the weaker boards, and they're over before anything interesting happens. When this game is at its best, it's trying to experiment with a Mario Party style that emphasizes minigames and speeds up the pace, but this comes at the cost of skimming over the board's ideas, rarely allowing the boards to take some time and twist their respective mechanics in a meaningful way. Island Tour has some neat concepts, but in execution, it's got some of the most forgettable boards in the entire series. Well, since this game has such a strong focus on minigames, I think we better jump right into rating them. So, if you're new here, I'm going to rate every single minigame in Mario Party Island Tour on a scale from 1 to 10, then find the mean, median, and mode and see how this minigame set stacks up compared to the rest of the series. The score for each minigame will be in the bottom right corner of the screen as we discuss them. Mario Party Island Tour has 69 minigames in its normal set, and what's interesting about this set is that it is entirely comprised of free-for-all minigames. This makes it a unique set to rank, since lots of times I find that minigame sets can be dragged down by certain minigame types that might be more difficult to balance or just not that fun. So, a set totally comprised of arguably the best type of minigame is exciting. As a reminder, I exclude any minigames that can't be found on the board, so this excludes puzzle minigames, boss minigames, and extra minigames from the set. With all of that out of the way, let's start ranking these minigames. Claiming the Cube is a pretty fun, albeit slow minigame where you ground pound glowing panels. Rope-a-Slope is a decent reaction minigame, although it's a little bit too easy. Tragic Carpet Ride is a really good idea for an Avoid the Hazards minigame. Using the Mattermouths from Galaxy 2 as the hazards, leaving trails of destroyed matter behind them, was brilliant. Stretch Run is a fun chicken minigame. It's a little easy to tie, but not so easy that you're going to do that every time you play. It's just a fun time all around. Grid is Good is indeed good. It's a really fun puzzle minigame that involves some serious mind games. Do you try to snag the big points and run the risk of getting canceled out, or do you play it safe in the hopes of getting some modest points from under the player's noses? So many options! Color Me Fast, the name says it all. It's very obvious filler. Musical Snares is a bumper ball style minigame where you collect musical notes. As you collect notes, your ball gets bigger and it becomes easier to snag more notes. A classic example of the rich getting richer. Buzz-a-Fuzzy is a cute utilization of motion controls, but it's really easy for the gyro to get desynced between rounds, and controlling this minigame becomes a bit of a nightmare. So recalibration between rounds is very common. It's fine, but could have been better in my opinion. Cannonball is a circle pad rotation minigame that it's bad. And yes, I know what you're thinking, and no, I'm not going to say it. Goomba to Maneuver is a really clever little minigame where you guide a snake of Goombas through an obstacle course and try to make sure that they all survive. It's cute, but a bit too easy. Kebab and Weave is like a slightly different version of Thwomper Room. It's fine. Tap Dash is yet another very basic reaction minigame. Tap the character that you see on the top screen. Yippee! Tanks-A-Lot is a very slow and boring tank minigame, a lot like Shell Shocked from Mario Party 2. Xylophone Home is a cute little rhythm minigame, a little easy, but super cute. Mild Gunman is a classic reaction minigame. This can be won by split seconds, which is way more interesting than something like Tap Dash in my opinion. Spin the bubble controls like ass! Why am I rotating my whole 3DS to move the bubble in awkward intervals when this could have easily been so much better with responsive circle pad controls? Rat-a-tat Flat is a 4-player version of Royal Rumpus. It's comparably boring. Tile Savvy is a slider puzzle. What you see is what you get. Hide and Splat is a fun avoid the hazards minigame that actually gets challenging. It's really good usage of the Toxbox enemies that encourages some quick thinking. Slow Glide, you could say that again. Sub Trouble, the pace of the game is in trouble, alright. Garden of Eden is one of the weakest luck minigames out there. When you're making a luck minigame, you've got to create stakes that make things interesting and put the players on edge. In this minigame, every player just walks up, waters a plant, and then they either advance or die unceremoniously. Come on, give us a treacherous scenario where we're all watching one player try to not set off a bomb or something. Gardening just doesn't do it. Peepa Peepa, hold your flashlight over the ghosts to get points. This one can get fun if you try to usurp points away from another player, ruining their chances of winning. I like it. Puzzle Pronto, complete one of 4 different types of square peg into square hole puzzles. It's extremely boring, and this is coming from the guy who loves puzzle minigames. Truckin' and Cluckin' is basically a third-person version of Peepa Peepa. It's comparably fun, but has a better name. The Gold Chicken is a little too powerful, though. Color Correction is a Splatoon-type minigame that lasts for, I'm not joking, 7 seconds. The minigame is over before it could even begin. Get Real is a different version of Picture This from Mario Party 7. It's still a fantastic minigame, although I think it's slightly weaker because you find a frame from 3 different slideshows and basically only move forward. I prefer Picture This, where there's only one animation and you have to go forwards and backwards to find the perfect frame. Picture This encourages more mental cataloging of the animation and gives players who are behind more opportunities to catch up, since they'll be in different parts of the animation when the next round starts. Both minigames are great. Picture This is just a little bit better. Top This is a competitive cake decorating game where you just try to get more of your topping onto the cake. It's frantic and fun, although a little bit finicky. Slip and Slip is a fun avoid the hazards minigame, although it's a little easy. Pachinko Wizard is a luck minigame that likes to pretend that it's not. It's also very boring. No Traction Action is a racing minigame on a sheet of ice with no traction. It's fine, nothing special, but not bad. Blown Hover is a fun reaction minigame that allows players to mess with each other. Slow G, hey, I've got a great idea for a minigame. Let's make a vertical platformer, but the twist is that it's slow as molasses and boring as sin. Spin and Barrett. Okay, now we're getting into some better RNG minigames. This is more like it. Fist of Clouds is a clever King of the Hill minigame. Starring artists Trace the Constellations. It's passable. Pokey Corral, avoid the hazards, but this time with quicksand. Hair Today. Hey, what if we made a version of Chimp Chase, but there's no color categorization, so you're just mindlessly picking up bunnies and placing them in the pen? Great Bars of Fire. Imagine hot rope jump with ducking. Cool, but you have 3 lives, so it's a little too easy to make it to the end. Not cool. Deck Hunt is like a slightly faster but less intense version of Apple Scramble. It's pretty fun. Paddle Skedaddle is your typical canoeing minigame, but there's no obstacles at all. Where are the obstacles? Fuel Me Once is a fun timing minigame where you try to get as close to 100 as possible. Pretty cute. Get along, Goomba! Try to lasso as many of the very finite Goombas as you can, but if you throw right after an opponent, you'll get nothing. It's a really fun Mines minigame, y'all. Cheapers Keepers, mash the button when it appears. Mashing on a 3DS is yucky. Drive for Show, a fun little golf minigame that uses the touchscreen well. I like it. Hop Till You Drop, yet another boring auto-scroller minigame. Helter Shelter commits every RNG minigame sin. It's boring, it's slow, it has no stakes, and the payoff is underwhelming. Yuck. Meteor Melee is a fun Coney Island-like. Bumper Thumper is a fast and frantic minigame. I love the dashing mechanic and how it commits you to potentially dangerous consequences for being too aggressive. However, it's also beneficial to be the aggressor to back opponents into a corner. It's just a good time. Horror Harriers, yet another avoid the hazard minigame. This one reminds me of All Fired Up from Mario Party 3. Cheap Diamonds is a boring and easy shell game, so the actual competition is decided by who can react to the correct correct button first. I have a distaste for minigames where the outcome is determined not by the main point of the minigame, but rather mashing or reacting to the correct answer that everybody already knows first. If you want to make a reaction minigame, make a reaction minigame. Or if you want to make a shell game, make a shell game, but one where it's not insanely easy for even children to get all three right. Slipknot, a very fun version of Cliff Riders from Wii Party U. Cliff Riders is better because it's harder, but this minigame was very fun too. Trounce and Bounce is like a more competitive version of Parachute and Gallery from Mario Party DS. However, in this minigame, failure results in death, so it's a really good idea to bump your opponents and try to send them off the path to victory. Mad Ladders, it's about as fun as it looks. Climb up the slow, boring ladders and hope you don't get hit by spike balls. What a thrill. Squish You Were Here. Avoid the crushing platforms by squeezing into the gaps. It's pretty fun, takes a little bit to get going, but once it does get going, it's enjoyable. Go With the Flow is a really fun Frogger type minigame where you want to bring penguins across the icy river to their mom. Its only Achilles heel is that it's way too easy to tie. Pool Buoy. Oh boy, please throw the golden flag to me. Amp My Style somehow makes an Avoid the Hazards minigame really boring by just closing in on the players. Ugh. Magmathon is a pretty fun reaction minigame. Shrub Hubbub is a shrub slicing minigame that can be a little finicky as you have to draw straight lines to cut. It's also just kinda boring. Quickest Cricket. Flick your circle pad to hop to the end first. It's pretty fun. Diamond a Dozen. Follow the gems and react to pick the right path first. It's boring and bad. Flip Out. Hop across these flomps with the proper timing. Kinda easy, but pretty darn fun. Bob-omb Aplomb is an insanely frantic minigame where you try to kick bombs over to the other player's sections to blow up their platform first. It's like playing hot potato with like 20 potatoes at a time. Gyro for the Gold is so much fun, man. It's like a competitive version of those ball rolling stages from Mario Galaxy. The gyro controls work well too. Point and shoot. Find one of the 3 enemies before the other players. It's way too easy to tie, and you should get scaling points based on who finds one of the subjects first. Match Faker frustrates me. This is a cool, unique use of the touchscreen. Players literally take notes about each character on the top screen and use them to remember what each panel is. Unfortunately, the actual challenge of finding the characters is underwhelming because there's no point scaling. So it's not about taking good notes and getting to the correct character first. As long as you get it right, you'll get the same amount of points as everybody else. So it's way too easy for everybody to get all 3 right. There's so much potential here, man. Thankfully, Skyd and Seek captures more of that potential. In this one, you take notes of how many Goombas and Paratroopas enter and exit the cloud, which is way more challenging. As a result, you get a minigame where everybody has to lock in and take really good notes to figure out how many of each are in the cloud. The only fault here is that, like many other minigames in this game, it's far too easy to tie. Utter Nonsense is the lesser-known multiplayer version of The Choicest Voice. It's not good, but it is funny, and I think that counts for something. And that's all of the minigames in Mario Party Island Tour. Mario Party Island Tour gets a mean score of 5.12, with a median of 5 and mode of 7. This places Mario Party Island Tour at number 7 in my overall minigame mean ranking, above Mario Party 2, but behind Mario Party 8. Island Tour lands basically smack dab in the middle of our series ranking thus far, which, for a portable Mario Party, really isn't bad. I think Island Tour was buffed a considerable amount by its free-for-all exclusive set, so there's no cases where a specific minigame category brings its mean score down overall, like in Mario Party 9's case, for example. However, with that being said, there is a lack of variety in Island Tour's minigames. Like, there are so many Avoid the Hazards minigames in particular that they all tend to blend together for me. I really don't think it would have hurt to add some different minigame types like 2v2s or duels, not just to add some spice to the minigame sets, but also to the boards as well, like we mentioned earlier. I also noticed that a lot of these minigames seem to have a rock theme in their name. Slow Glide, Great Bars of Fire, Slipknot, Pachinko Wizard, Helter Shelter. Who on the Nintendo of America team was on a real classic rock kick back in 2013? Tangent aside, the minigames in Mario Party Island Tour are decently fun and at least competitive with the console game's offerings. So, what are the different kinds of modes and extras we can play these minigames in? Well, truthfully, there's not much, especially in terms of multiplayer content. For minigame modes, we only have one: Hot Air Hijinks, the series staple win 3, 5, or 7 minigames mode. With Island Tour's emphasis on quick pick up and play structure, I've gotta wonder why there were almost no minigame modes in this game. I feel like a quick round of a mode like Garden Battle or Treetop Bingo would have fit well here. I suppose the folks at NDCube probably assumed that the boards already did that sufficiently, and adding multiplayer minigame modes would be redundant, but to me, it seems like a pretty big missed opportunity. The only other multiplayer, well, kind of multiplayer mode is the Street Pass minigame. See, if you Street Pass somebody with a copy of Island Tour, you'll get to face off against a CPU with a difficulty level from 1 to 5 stars based on how high that player's skill level is. So you're not playing directly against that player, but rather an approximation of their skill based on CPU difficulty. This is kind of a weird comparison, but if you ever played Toad Rally in Super Mario Run, it's kind of like that. It's a neat function, pretty cool that Street Pass functionality is even in the game at all, but it's a bit weird that you don't compete directly against the opponent's best time or something. Other than that, there are a few puzzle and extra minigames that you can play with friends. 3 House is your standard falling block matching minigame where you want to line up 3 items to clear them, a simple Puyo Puyo knockoff. Emergency Hexit is another matching minigame, except in this one, you're sliding these emblems around to clear collections of 7. You can also slide this green shell next to your character to get them to kick it and clear out a line for you. It's fine, at least it's more unique than 3 House, but it's not a mind-blowing puzzle game or anything. Additionally, there are a couple of extra minigames as well, and 2 of them actually use the 3DS's AR cards. Yeah, remember those? The little cards that came with your 3DS that you could use to play little built-in minigames? Well, Mario Party Island Tour uses them too. Kagoomba is a simple point-and-shoot minigame, fairly comparable to what you'd see in the actual AR games application. The other one is Sinking Feeling, a minigame where you try to climb up this structure and rotate your 3DS around the card to see around the entire tower. These are fun novelties, but I wouldn't stumble over yourself to find your AR cards to play these. There's a reason they can't even show up in the boards. That does it for all of the multiplayer extras in this game, but I'd be remiss to not at least mention the Choicest Voice. The Choicest Voice is a single-player minigame that expands upon Utter Nonsense's premise. In this minigame, you'll perform an impression of Mario characters and try to get a score of 90 points or more from the judges within 3 rounds. There's no competitive element to this, so winning or losing doesn't matter. The Choicest Voice is infamous online. I mean, chances are that if you've seen content of Island Tour online, it's probably from this minigame. And that's because, just like Utter Nonsense, this minigame is really bad, but really funny. Man, it is really staticky wise. Man, it is really staticky wise. Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's just a solid. I'll take that. Oh, dude, I do such a killer Waluigi.
Waluigi! Waluigi!
See, that's pretty good. Oh, yeah.
Wario!
Wario!
Finish!
Dude, I'm holding it so far away from my mouth. Listen to this. Wario! Oh, come on, that was better than that. See, thank you. Typically, I wouldn't mention a minigame like this in one of my retrospectives. These videos only really cover the multiplayer content of the Mario Party games, so I typically leave single-player modes out. However, the reason I let it slide was the sheer number of times I have genuinely, unironically been able to gather a group of friends around a 3DS and a copy of this game just so we could all take turns playing this minigame and trying to get 150. It makes for a fun little group activity that makes you all look stupid, but bonds you in a way. So before we wrap up, let's chat about Mario Party Island Tour's beginner friendliness. This game is a bit of a weird one because I think we should take into account that each player needs their own console to play. If you're able to overcome that hurdle, I think that you'll find that Mario Party Island Tour is pretty simple to learn. However, I believe that simplicity comes at the cost of both pacing and engagement. Island Tour is easily one of the slowest, most boring Mario Party games that I've played on a pacing level. Ironic, isn't it? It feels like everything in this game has small bits of filler that take forever to get through, from placement movements to rolling the dice by flicking them from the bottom screen to clicking through menus to even accessing the dice. Island Tour struggles with finding a good flow. Since Island Tour is very lacking in decision-making options, it's easy for a 20-minute game to feel like twice that amount of time. I'm going to give Island Tour 1.5 stars on my beginner friendliness meter. It's a really hard sell to play with friends, and even if you do get people to play this game together, I think you'll find the effort was not worth it. Breaking this game out with friends will either result in a short minigame session or eviction from the party you're at. Mario Party Island Tour is not a good Mario Party game. It has a decent selection of minigames, but also one of the series' worst board lineups and a striking lack of content. Now, I think that Island Tour should be cut some slack here because it is a portable Mario Party experience, and those have always proven to be a challenge to pull off well. However, while Mario Party Island Tour stumbles across the finish line with weak boards and virtually no side content, a game like Mario Party DS proved that handheld games can rise to the challenge and create a Mario Party experience that is at least competitive with the console offerings. It's certainly not perfect, but Mario Party DS tried really hard to cram an authentic Mario Party into a DS cartridge, but it didn't stop at that. It had so many minigame modes and extras to play that offered bite-sized bits of fun that could easily be enjoyed quickly on the go. Island Tour, on the other hand, has one minigame mode and short boards with horrible tempo that makes them feel longer than they are. All of these faults make it, unsurprisingly, one of my least favorite entries in this series. In my series ranking, it sits firmly behind Mario Party 1. It's above Mario Party Advance just kind of on the basis that it's actually multiplayer, although it doesn't beat Mario Party 1 for me because Mario Party 1 has at least a couple of decent boards, and its board gameplay is way more conducive to creating memorable moments than Island Tour. When I sat down to create this retrospective, I knew I was jumping into what was likely going to be an overwhelmingly negative video. However, what I didn't expect to find revisiting Island Tour were concepts that I actually kind of liked. I just really didn't like their implementation. The card mechanic, for example, is a clever way to utilize the portable Mario Party experience. Some of the ideas in this game have merit as unique twists on the Mario Party formula, but for one reason or another, the way they were implemented left a lot to be desired. I think Mario Party Island Tour suffers greatly from having two somewhat opposed ideals: a desire to retain the Mario Party brand image and not divert from the series' roots, but also a desire to totally upend the series and create something different, more in line with Wii Party and more cognizant of its handheld setting. I think that there are ways to create a fun portable Mario Party experience, but you either need to commit to the length and depth the traditional Mario Party board game requires, or find some entirely new, unique way of doing board gameplay or minigame modes that streamlines the gameplay in a more considerate manner that can end quickly while still providing a satisfying gameplay loop. The latter was definitely the goal for this entry, and even Nintendo itself stated so in the Nintendo Direct showcasing this game prior to launch.
The gameplay changes dramatically on each individual board, and there are some maps where victory is decided quickly, making it a game that is easy to enjoy even if you don't have a lot of time.
When ND Cube took over the Mario Party series after most of its staff moved over from Hudson Soft, there was a noticeable concern about pacing and tempo in each of its Mario Party games for a period. This likely stemmed from the feedback they got on Wii Party from the Wii Sports Resort team at Nintendo, which was particularly harsh about the minigame's pacing. While Wii Party was able to succeed in creating a fast-paced party game experience, Mario Party is a different beast. There are different expectations that come with the new Mario Party Party game versus what players might expect from a new Wii Series game. The Wii Series has always been a loosely structured collection of different modes that are fast-paced and easy to jump in and out of, ever since the series' inception as a collection of scattered tech demos. Wii Party fell in line with those standards and, in my opinion, improved it with more diverse structure, with modes that felt more complete, more fleshed out, and had more longevity. However, Mario Party, since its very first entry, has always been a time commitment to play. If you're playing a board of Mario Party, you probably know that you're sitting down for probably an hour minimum to casually roll across the board while you make conversation. That's not to say that pacing wasn't a factor in the Hudson era of Mario Party games. Some of the classic games have pacing issues in their own right, but I think those games are more comfortable in taking their time, slowing their roll, and giving players space to communicate. In that Nintendo Online Magazine interview about Mario Party DS, the game's programming director Hideki Nishimoto and its visual director Akihiro Shibata discussed how they arrived at DS's quick, but not too quick pace.
We put a lot of work into keeping the game's overall tempo high. For one, the DS is battery operated. During development, characters move twice as quickly as they do in the final product. We did slow it down because if characters ran too quickly, players wouldn't be able to see what their opponents were doing.
We thought players would want to play the game at a faster pace on their own as they got better with the mechanics, so the game had a pretty brisk play cycle at first. That said, we didn't want players to feel rushed, so we were making adjustments with player comfort in mind.
Mario Party DS has brisk pacing, but it is comfortable taking its time and letting players strategize, at least a little, through its item systems and different board gimmicks. There was an underlying understanding that Mario Party, much like physical board games, was not something that you brought out if you only had 20 minutes to spare. However, the game still moves quickly to keep everybody engaged and probably account for the time lost between loading screens. However, I think ND Cube saw this as a place to modernize Mario Party and improve the formula so players could more conveniently squeeze in a game or two in a shorter span of time. That leads to some internal tension though. According to Nishia, preserving the series' essence and keeping it familiar and comfortable is important, so you can't change things too much and lose what made Mario Party so beloved. As a result, Island Tour lands uncomfortably in the middle. These days, I cannot recommend even playing it with some friends for some novelty, but even during this very dark time in the Mario Party series, you can still see little nuggets of creativity and attempts to try something new that are admirable, even if they don't work out. And the handheld entries are arguably the best testing grounds for experimental ideas that could be brought over to home console entries. So now that ND Cube has 2 Mario Party games under their belt, how will they push the Mario Party series forward on home consoles after Mario Party 9? Well, on the next episode of Mark's Rec Room, we're going to the big screen and the gamepad screen to discuss Mario Party 10, a game with a lot of potential for unique ideas as the only Mario Party on the Wii U. Thank you so much for watching this video. The response to the last few episodes of Mark's Rec Room has been incredibly motivating, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I'd like to thank my channel members for sticking with me and for also enabling me to be able to do really cool stuff with this video, like get that rare Mario Party interview translated for the first time. If you want to support the channel and get some perks, becoming a member is the best way to do that. But if you can't become a member right now, that's totally fine. Just liking, commenting, and subscribing is more than enough. Anyways, thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.